In 1962, during the most volatile and uncertain days of the Cold War, a document stamped "Top Secret" was placed on the president's desk. This was not a routine intelligence briefing, nor a standard diplomatic cable. It was a proposal, born from the deepest, most insulated corners of the military establishment. Decades later, when it was finally declassified, its contents would send a shockwave through the historical record, revealing a plan so profoundly unsettling, it remains a subject of intense debate and disbelief to this day. To truly understand this document, one must transport themselves back in time. 1962 was the absolute peak of a global psychological war. The world was not just divided. It was fractured, held together by the terrifying logic of mutually assured destruction. In America, fear was a part of the daily routine. Children practiced hiding under their desks, a futile drill against atomic fire. The domino theory was preached as gospel, a core belief that if one nation fell to a rival ideology, its neighbors were destined to follow. The pressure on the young Kennedy administration was suffocating. Coming off the public humiliation of the failed Bay of Pigs invasion, the White House could not afford another sign of weakness. Every geopolitical move was a high-stakes chess match. Every decision carried the weight of the free world. And at the center of this storm was Cuba, a small island, yet a colossal problem. A mere 90 miles from the Florida coast, it had become a defiant symbol and a strategic foothold for a rival superpower. For the Pentagon, its existence in its current form was an unacceptable threat. The military's top minds were therefore tasked with a critical mission: generate options, create contingency plans, and develop strategies to neutralize the situation. In this hyper-tense environment, the doctrine of brinkmanship, pushing events to the very edge of open conflict to force an outcome, was the dominant philosophy. Within this framework, planners were not just allowed, but encouraged to think outside the conventional box, to consider every possible angle, no matter how extreme. It was from this pressure cooker of fear and strategy that the document emerged. Formally, it was a memorandum, a theoretical paper exploring how to manufacture a justification for military action. Its language was intentionally bureaucratic, sterile, and detached. It spoke coolly of pretexts, scenarios, and managing public opinion. But the ideas hidden within that dry, procedural language were anything but sterile. The paper explored a chilling central question. If the American public was not yet ready to support a war, what kind of catalyzing event would be necessary to change their minds, almost overnight? This wasn't about reacting to a crisis. It was about the theoretical possibility of creating one. It was an exercise in the architecture of perception, a strategic discussion that coldly gamed out the emotional and political fallout of a manufactured tragedy. The document presented a menu of hypothetical scenarios, each designed to provoke profound shock and outrage, thereby unifying the nation behind a clarion call for war. It deliberately blurred the dangerous line between planning for a contingency and contemplating the creation of one. These were not vague suggestions. They were detailed blueprints for events that would dramatically and irreversibly alter the course of history. This wasn't a rogue idea from a single general. It was signed and endorsed by the country's highest-ranking military body. And as we will explore, the specifics of what they proposed are the reason this document was buried for nearly 40 years, forcing us to confront a terrifying question. In the defense of a nation, is there a line that should never be crossed? When the document, codenamed Operation Northwoods, was finally declassified decades later, historians and researchers were forced to confront a disturbing reality. The chilling theories discussed in our last segment were not just vague ideas. This wasn't a casual brainstorm scribbled on a napkin during a tense meeting. It was a formal proposal, detailed and methodical. It had a potential budget. It had a phased timeline. It had a list of personnel and required assets. The level of operational detail was staggering, and it made one thing terrifyingly clear. This was designed to be a viable, actionable plan. It was meant to be taken seriously. The proposal outlined a series of interlocking scenarios, each designed to create the undeniable illusion of a foreign attack on the United States. The authors referred to these coldly as pretexts. One section detailed plans for military equipment incidents. It explored how to create a convincing simulation of an attack on a U.S. naval base, or the downing of a remote-controlled military drone, complete with a trail of fabricated evidence meticulously designed to point the finger at a specific culprit. The goal was to create an event that was visually and emotionally compelling, leaving no room for doubt in the public mind. Another section focused on international transportation disruptions. It discussed staging events involving civilian airliners or international shipping routes, creating a sudden, public crisis that would demand an immediate and forceful response from the United States government. The document even planned for the critical hours and days after such an event, laying out how to manage the public's reaction to a sudden national emergency. There were plans for pre-written press releases and official government statements, all carefully designed to seize and control the narrative from the very first minute. But even in the extreme pressure cooker of the Cold War, there are lines that, once crossed, can never be undone. As the Northwoods proposal moved from the closed-door meetings of the Pentagon, it began to encounter quiet but firm resistance. Some senior officials within the administration, particularly on the civilian side, recognized the profound danger in this kind of thinking. It wasn't just about the catastrophic political risk if such a plan were ever exposed. It was about the moral boundary it proposed to obliterate. The very idea of a government manufacturing a tragedy to justify a war. It was a step into a darkness from which there was no return. The proposal, for all its detailed planning, had run into a wall of conscience. The document, with its shocking appendix of scenarios, had reached its final destination. It was passed up the chain of command, beyond the military planners. The debate had drawn a moral line in the sand. Now, the ultimate decision rested with one man. A decision that would determine whether Operation Northwoods remained a dark footnote in a classified file or became a horrifying chapter in world history. Because one signature, or the refusal to give it, changed everything. The plan, in all its terrifying detail, never moved forward. The scenarios designed to deceive a nation and trigger a war remained frozen on the page. But Operation Northwoods wasn't simply lost in a sea of paperwork or forgotten in the chaos of the Cold War. The proposal didn't just fade away, it was stopped. It reached the highest level of power and hit a definitive, immovable wall. The plan wasn't forgotten, it was explicitly rejected. The document landed on the desk of President John F. Kennedy. After the pressure of the Bay of Pigs and the escalating tensions over Cuba, this proposal represented a fork in the road. It offered a dark path, a way to manufacture certainty in an uncertain world. Kennedy reviewed the document, and in a quiet, unceremonious decision that would remain secret for decades, he declined to approve it. Historians now believe that the sheer extremity of Northwoods reinforced Kennedy's growing distrust of the military's aggressive posture. He saw how easily the machinery of war could be turned on, and he chose restraint. Shortly after, significant leadership changes were made within the military command. The message was sent, not through a public declaration, but through decisive action behind the scenes. This line of thinking was no longer welcome. It was a clear and unmistakable signal. Following its rejection, Operation Northwoods was buried. For nearly 40 years, it remained locked away, a silent testament to a crisis averted. Its existence was known only to a handful of individuals. Then, as part of routine archival disclosures designed to bring transparency to the Cold War era, it was quietly declassified. There was no press conference, no dramatic announcement from a government official. It surfaced as just one document among thousands, a ghost of the past released into the public record. A plan that could have plunged the world into war appeared without a single headline. And this is why the story of Operation Northwoods matters today. It's not about assigning blame or relitigating the decisions of the past. It's a stark lesson in how fear, intense pressure, and national uncertainty can push institutions to consider the unthinkable. It's a case study in the quiet, unseen moments where disaster is averted not by loud confrontation, but by sober judgment. This document serves as a permanent reminder that the systems of power we create have the capacity to both protect and mislead us. And it proves that history isn't just a story of what happened. In the most critical moments, it is also what almost happened. If you find these hidden moments of American and global history fascinating, subscribe, like, and comment.